PFL event for a month. Okay, last event was at France and Ghana card. We were all kind of coming out of it like being like, okay, PFL, that was a great event. Here is your shot in the arm that you need that you've needed for a long time. Because you have the money, you have the fighters, you guys just don't know what the fuck you're doing. For one night, you figured out what the fuck you're doing. And then right after that, they proceeded to shit all over themselves. And they canceled that Bellator card. Now they're going in to what should be the second biggest event of the year for them. They have the World Championship cards. They have all these tournaments, which nobody cares about. I'm sorry to say, nobody cares. But these are good fighters. Several of these fights are excellent fights. Saudi Arabia is paying for it. Use your big chance. What we're talking about this week is not the PFL the PFL title fights. Instead, we're talking about the PFL because once again, they're fucking up. You mentioned it. The Pitbull brothers, both of them. Patricio, Pitbull. The Bellator GOAT coming out and complaining about his lack of fights. Corey Anderson, who won the Bellator light heavyweight title, I believe, in February. He's saying, dude, I fought once this year. What's up with that? Why am I not fighting more? Patchy Mix, who was supposed to fight on that Bellator France card, he came out, said, yo, like, dude, like, I'm being wasted here.
Gegard a while back, and we'll bring him back up.
Gegard sued those motherfuckers for not giving him fights. What are we doing here, Don Davis? What are we doing here? Angel, give me your thoughts, man. I mean, it's bad.
It's wild, but I do know through listening to another podcast that apparently, I guess all the big heads and all the people at PFL are getting together after the end of the season and going to make, hopefully, and potentially some changes, which hopefully those changes are getting rid of this fucking season bullshit, merging the rosters, adding a 135 division, and just taking it from there. I feel like that's just a good start to begin with. And they could still do tournaments, but just one single way tournaments. You know what I mean? So this is just a shit show, man. And hopefully after the end of this year, we can see some positive changes for the PFL because they could genuinely do something very good here. And on top of that, appease the fighters they have because it would really suck for them to lose a lot of these guys. Because like I said, right now, they don't have a bantamweight division. And if these guys want to get out, like if they can find a way to get out of their contracts, you know where the fuck they're going to go? They're going to go to the UFC.
Yeah.
Probably. You know, or they're going to go where they can get the most money, at least. Wherever that may be. I don't know. I'm not sure where it's going to be. But more likely than not, since they're established, they have a lot of these guys that are complaining have won titles. Yeah. They could probably get at least a contract they're willing to live with in the UFC.
Yeah, and it doesn't help right now. But I'll say this. I feel so bad for these guys, especially because not only are they stuck under the PFL/Zombie Bellator, right?
They're not making money right now.
They're not making money. Let's say you get your release. Where are you going to go? Your options at this stage. One championship, who barely promote MMA and are in tons of debt.
Ryzen, who
they do good shit, but they only promote like 3 major events a year at this point. Like they do smaller shows, they do co-promotions.
KSW, M1 Global.
M1. I mean, like, how relevant is M1 in 2024? You know what I mean? Like,
they're relevant in their regions. That's the thing.
Yeah. But the point being, there's, especially in North America, is basically what I'm saying. MMA as a whole is drying up. Every promoter outside of the UFC. That's why you have BKFC coming through. You have Karate Combat coming through. But those are not MMA. Like, those are MMA adjacent. And you have a lot of former MMA guys there. But if you're an MMA fighter and you're trying not to leave North America, you're kind of fucked for opportunities, man. And I feel bad for these guys. In PFL, you got to get your shit together. I've heard the same thing you did about they're going to get together, have a meeting this week. The fact that the meeting has to be had is just ridiculous. I mean, we're so far past the point of any of this shit making sense. You mentioned the tournaments. They're not going to stop the tournaments. They should stop. But PFL, stop your fucking tournaments. Nobody cares. Don Davis, I'm looking right at you. Nobody gives a shit. I'm sorry. Nobody cares. Nobody. You can try and set yourself apart from the UFC in a lot of ways. And that's what you need to do. But they're going for this. What does Don Davis say all the time? Like, they're the co-leader or some shit. It's like, dude, you're not the co-leader. You can't give these guys fucking fights.
Also, MMA is going to, in these next few years, a lot of stuff's going to happen in MMA because the ESPN deal with the UFC is coming to an end. All this stuff's going on with PFL. One championship is, you see the direction one championship is going. A lot of these Thai shows, a lot of shows based in Thailand, a lot of Thai fights, not a lot of MMA. So yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what plays out because I don't think it's just the PFL. I think it's everything in the MMA space going forward.
Yeah, and it's just like even I said this on Twitter and it's like PFL. They bought Zombie Bellator. They don't know what the fuck to do with it. They clearly had no plan for this. Okay? No coherent one anyway. One championship. They barely promote MMA. The MMA they do is good. I'll say that. I mean, we talked about, Umar Kane winning. That was big. It was a big fight when that happened. But they're doing a lot of Thai shit. Like Muay Thai fights specifically. They've always been doing Thai shit. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? They're kind of introducing it more. Even things like BKFC. Earlier this week, Mike Perry came out and said, like, hey, they're not letting me fight. I have 3 fights left on my deal, but because Conor McGregor got pissed off at me, they've shelved their biggest star. Like, what the fuck are promoters doing in the year of our Lord 2024? Have you guys just lost your fucking minds? Do you not have any clue on how to do this shit? Yeah, it's like even the PFL this week. They came out. They're like, we're going to have elbows for the world title card.
Which I think is good because they don't do it in the season because that way there could be some mishaps leading up to the championship.
Here's the thing. They're doing this big promotion. Elbows are here. Dude, you mean you're just having normal MMA? and you're going to go back to not having elbows again in like 3-4 months? Like,
I think all championship fights is what they said they're going to do. Like all made, like anytime a belt's on the line, they'll do it.
I feel like I'm Prince Nazim Hamed after, I think it was Chris Eubank Jr. lost, I think it was George Rose or whatever. He's like, what camera do I look into to tell him to finish? What camera do I to tell him to stop? Like fucking Don Davis, stop. Sell the company, dude. I've never hated a promoter more. I'm going to be honest with you. Because as bad as Dana White is as a human being, and as bad as
But goddamn, is he good at promoting fights?
Don King. These guys are terrible people, but they know how to do it. Don Davis may be the nicest human being of all time. He doesn't seem to be. He just seems like a fucking executive who just wants to leech off of MMA. He doesn't give a fuck about the sport. They asked him, hey, Don Davis, what's your favorite MMA fight of all time? And the motherfucker didn't have an answer. He could have said anything. He could have literally said any fucking fight. This happened like 3 weeks ago. The motherfucker had no answers. So, I don't know. And it shows in the fact that you have people who don't like MMA or that are running the fucking
I feel like
show.
if you're doing anything in sports, you got to have some level of passion for it.
Scott Coker loved MMA. Shachi Sichiton, for all my issues with him, guy loves MMA. Like these guys love the sport.
It's a big part of their lives.
It's so shitty to me that the PFL is like the last kind of one standing. And like they treat their fighters like shit.
And they have a chance too. They have a chance to at least be a decent B team.
They have Francis Ngannou, Jake Paul, Chris Cyborg. They have multiple big names.
All the boxers they brought in too.
Yeah, I mean they got Amanda Serrano, Clarissa Shields signed, obviously Savannah Marshall. Like they have all these great names, and they have the backing of the Saudi Arabia. Like UFC's working with Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure how much money they've gotten, but I'm damn sure it's not as much as the PFL's gotten. Remember back they invested $100 million, and they're apparently paying for the underwriting as far as like all the Saudi events happening in Saudi. Like they're taking care of all that shit. So I don't know. We'll talk about this card though. We'll break into the PFL card. Okay, this card has barely been promoted. I've barely seen anybody talk about it. Out of curiosity, I looked up the Google Trends, and you could see like if people look up PFL 10 or I looked up PFL 10.
It's like 10K.
There were a couple of results. Yeah. I looked up PFL World Championships, which is kind of like the under, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of what it's called or whatever, like on Twitter, #PFL World Championships. No results. Not enough people had searched it up for it to even register on Google Trends. I shit you not. So here we go. We're doing this preview for the 7 PFL fans out there. Okay? Which is apparently not Don Davis. Don Davis is not even one of those fans.
By the way, it's going to be a long night because they're all the championship fights are 5 rounds. And on top of that, they're not just doing their regular season. They also have the MENA, the European, which I think was a mistake. I feel like they should have just done those cards on their own in their own regions because the whole point is to go to those regions, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to have those guys who are becoming champions in those regions fight in their region. Kind of a mistake on their part, I think. But I mean, I can see they're trying to have more title fights on the line. But I just think that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
On top of that, they have some pretty good bangers on the undercard. I don't think they were needed because it's a 16-fight card, right?
Yes.
And it's Night of Champions. Shouldn't all the fights just be champions? And if you're including all the PFL men and all that shit that I just said, you have 10 championship fights, which is more than enough to suffice for a fight card.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they could have had these other guys who are on the undercard that are banger fights fought on a separate card.
Yeah. Yeah. But they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I mean, they throw title. There has to be a title on the line for everybody's a champion in the PFL. Like everybody's a fucking champion because they have the PFL, they have PFL Europe, they have PFL MENA, they have the PFL Saudi Arabia, they have the PFL Super Fights League. You have 5 different divisions, and yet you can't book fucking Patchy Mix. Jesus.
They really have to simplify it. That's the other thing. They're making it way
damn.
too hard to understand too.
Yeah, it's like,
And that really, it's already hard for people to get into fights. You know, it's funny. I was having a conversation with someone who's never watched fights, but thought it was cool. They're like, yeah, I would watch. The only issue, it's kind of hard, you know, with all the pay-per-view stuff and on top.
oh yeah, I mean,
you know, but for someone like I'm saying, for this person in particular, imagine on top of that I have to explain to them, oh yeah, in the PFL, there's the Mano division, there's Europe, there's super fights, and there's the PFL regular season. You know what I mean? Like, it's already hard for them to get enough and like get into it as it is. Then adding all this other shit on top of it makes it even harder.
They're trying to copy the UFC in so many ways of like, in terms of like the professionalism and sort of like a lot of their branding or whatever. But like at the same time, you're not going to follow like the easiest thing the easiest thing the UFC
and they're failing in the other aspects.
Yeah, the easiest thing that the UFC does to digest. They're like, all right, UFC Vegas 100. Shows in Las Vegas. It's on ESPN. You know what to expect there. They just call whatever the city they're going to. They just do it that. Instead, we have PFL 10, PFL Super Fights Battle of the Giants, PFL Europe 4. Where's the city happening? I don't know.
If you're gonna do those names on those big cards, I think you're fine. I mean, UFC used to do it at one point. We used to have, what was it? UFC fucking
79 knockout
or comeback, some shit like that. Like, they can do that, but I don't know, dude.
I don't know. They just don't know what they're doing over there. But let's talk about let's break into the fights. Because here's the issue.
They're good fights.
They're good fights. Like, this is a genuinely very well structured main card. I like a lot of these fights. We'll hit off in the main event. This fight is an absolute banger. Brendan Loughnane, who has become one of the PFL, like kind of their stars, really. You know what I mean? Just an incredible resume. Been in the company since 2019. Obviously, he came off the Dana White Contender Series. A lot of people were like, he should have gotten the deal. He didn't get the deal. Since then, he's looked great. Defeated a lot of UC vets in there. You know, won the 2022 featherweight tournament.
Not even just that. He has 14 fights for this promotion.
Exactly. He's a homegrown star. Okay? Great fight here. Coming off a winner with Kai Kamaka. Taking on Timur Kaziriev. 29 years old. Former Bellator guy. Former, I want to say, like he fought at Fight Nights, like M1 Global, I believe. Yeah, man, undefeated. 17-0. Coming off a win over Gabriel Braga in August. Great win there. I love this fight, man. Very good fight. Excited for it. I'm not really going to offer predictions for any of these fights, just for the record. I don't really care that much. But I'm going to talk about them, preview them a little bit. I think they're fun. You know, and if there's any that you particularly guys you want to shout out, you can just feel free to interrupt me. But, you know, like Dakota, I've never understood how to actually last name. But Dakota Dichiva, I believe.
Dichiva, yeah. Dichiva.
Yeah. I want to get it right because this girl is on the short list of like most entertaining women in MMA.
She's also one of the best 125ers on the planet. Like, honestly,
yeah. Former Muay Thai fighter. She's very young. She's 26, out of the UK, 13-0. Okay, 13-0 with 12 wins coming by way of finish. This girl, there's no reason why she's not a star. I'm just saying. Like, come on,
she's entertaining. If you guys haven't watched her fight, you should check her out.
Yeah, this is also, by the way, I hate to be the one that says this. Okay. Larissa Pacheco was never going to be a star, even though she's murdering girls inside a minute. Dakota is a genuinely attractive, well-spoken. No, I'm not even joking here.
No, but that's
one of the requirements.
That's the marketing world. I don't know, sadly.
You know, it's sad, but that is what it is. PFL. Why is she not a star, man? What are we doing here? What are we doing? She's attractive. She's well-spoken. She finishes girls inside of a round. She's ridiculous.
Yeah, me and her are one and the same in that department.
One round? You finish one round? What, we got a fucking marathon runner over here, man? Shit. Anyways.
I'm not the only one finishing, I'll tell you what.
Shit.
It was a layup, man.
What are we doing?
It was a layup. It was a layup, man.
Dick joke hour over here, okay?
She's taking on Talia Santos, though. That's a tough fight.
Dude, yeah.
And Talia Santos might have beat Valentina Shevchenko not that long ago.
Yeah, here's what we're going to go ahead and do. Pull up the odds here, because I saw these earlier this week. And I want to get it correct. Oh my god, do they not have a line for this?
They don't have a line for their fight?
That's crazy.
Okay. Well, I'm on a unnamed website and it says minus 355 Dakota, plus 280 Talia Santos.
Plus 280 for Talia is what you just said?
Yes.
Okay. That's insane.
By the way, I'm going to go check with our friends at BetMGM.
If you want to follow and actually throw some money down on these fights, you can follow that link down below, up to $1,500 and bonus bets paid back if you do not hit contact 1-800-GAMBLER if you have any issues. But yeah, BetMGM for throw some money down these fights. Man, Talia Santos.
By the way, I have now found it. So our friends at BetMGM have it as a plus 300 Talia Santos, minus 400 for Dakota. Shout out BetMGM.
I love Dakota. Very high on her. That's insane. That's crazy odds. I'd take Talia at those odds. I'm gonna put it like that, man. That's crazy.
Does that necessarily mean though you think that Dakota's not going to win though? Or you just think those odds are too good to miss out on?
I think those odds are too good to miss out on, and I will also say that I am picking Talia Santos. If I have to give a prediction, I think Talia Santos is arguably the greatest women's flyweight on the planet. She's one of them for sure.